Well, g'day there. Welcome back to another one. There is a lot to get through. My notes are all over the place, so bear with me tonight. We do have a lot to get through. I will be going through I'll give you a few thoughts on the State of Origin Game 1. I'll give you a review, or my review of Round 14, and then I'll give my preview of Round 15 coming up with my tips and picks for this next round. So look, we do have a lot to get into. Let's quickly cover off the State of Origin. I can't believe I haven't made a video since the State of Origin, but anyway. But yeah, look, it wasn't the game we all wanted. Let's be honest. I think the contest was taken away by the send-off incident. So I'm not going to really talk too much about anything else. It was predominantly revolved, the game or the result revolved around that send-off. So look, in my personal opinion, it was a send-off. There's different opinions of whether it was intentional or otherwise. Not many people have argued that it wasn't a send-off. Some people don't think there should be send-offs in State of Origin, or there should be slightly different rules for that. Nathan Highmarsh. But for me, I don't believe it was a targeted head high. I think as Suaalii looked away to commit to the tackle, Reece Walsh dropped just enough to cop it. And there's no doubt Reece Walsh was targeted, but you have to target the good players and try and shut them down, and that's what Suaalii was doing. So yeah, that was I don't think he was intending to take his head off. I've got a few other thoughts just in terms of the mindset of, I don't think that's what people these days intend to do. So anyway, look, so yes, I think it was a send-off, but the fact is the game was all over after that point. I do believe there should be a rule change. I think rugby league's a little bit behind the eight ball on that one, but in my opinion, a send-off should be for that player gets sent off, no question. But another player can come on after 20 minutes to get the full quota of players. So it's a 20-minute man disadvantage. That player cannot return. And when you're talking about rugby league, playing with 12 on the field is such a disadvantage. It's a 17-man game, but it's more noticeable when there's only 12 on the field. So having 16 is still a significant disadvantage, as we know, when there's injuries. So look, for me, I feel like that's a harsh enough punishment. The rules in rugby league have been trying to, stamp out head contact. So they've been quite aggressive with it, but I feel like that we've seen that it's been enough. Enough now. We get the idea. The players understand. The punishments have been enough. So send off. I think it needs to be 20 minutes, and another player can come back on. I still think that's harsh enough because there's obviously a lot of talk. Well, we'll just send someone out there and take their best player's head off, and we got two players out of the game, but at least their best player's gone. Well, look, it just doesn't work like that. There's too much at stake, shall I say. That's my opinion. I think with the send-off, Suaalii, for example, intentional or not, he's not going to play State of Origin, and it's not just because of this incident, but the penalties are harsh. There'll be suspensions. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, or whatever. I haven't got that far, I must admit. We'll look at the team lists in a minute, but so I feel like it's hard. The punishments are hard enough. So that's my take on that one. Very contentious topic. I appreciate that, but everyone's got an opinion in terms of the result, whatever it was. But let's talk about team changes quickly. Queensland, it's unlikely they'll make any changes unless there's injuries, but I don't think they need to. New South Wales, of course, that's where all the talk is. I think there'll be a few players come back in. That'll be Latrell. He'll come in for Suaalii. I think that's reasonably obvious. Dylan Edwards will come in for James Tedesco, but who did play actually really well. And that's a big call to make, but I'd say that's probably the right call. And then Cameron Murray looks like he's back from injury this week, so he may sneak in. It might be one game might be enough to get him back into the team. And then I think you've got to keep Nico Hines. That's my personal opinion. I don't think changing when you've just had someone sent off and you're a man down. I mean, do you want to change your halves? I just can't get my head around that. Get a bit of consistency. Just go with it. I mean, he is one of the best premier players in the competition. He just needs more game time at that level. I think Reece Robson stays as well. Coruscant played poorly on the weekend, and I think he played himself out of contention. But Damien Cook might be coming into a bit of form, but it depends with what players they're going around him. You've got Cameron Murray coming back and Latrell, so there's a few combinations from the Rabbitohs that may help Damien Cook. We will see. Let's park that for now. But anyway, in terms of round 14, we have the first game on, would have been the Friday night after Origin. The Dragons versus Tigers. Dragons winning this one quite comfortably, 56-14 in the end. The Dragons' last game was a win against the Panthers, which was a decent upset. I must admit that was a decent upset. Tigers lost to the Cowboys just before the bye and have lost 4 in a row now. I think sit at the bottom of the table. And the Dragons' Origin players backed up just 2 days after Origin, which is hella impressive. And then the first half was pretty even. The Tigers competed pretty well and actually led at halftime 12-14. But the second half was just one of the worst halves, by a team this year, and probably for a long time. But the Dragons scored 7 tries in the second half alone, 2 to Lomax, and he ended up with 3, and he scored 32 points. He didn't miss a kick, 10 conversions in total. Coruscant missed 9 tackles, Seyfarth missed 6. The Tigers completing only 3 sets, I think I heard, in the second half, and they only had 35% possession for the game. So the second half was abysmal because they would have had about 50% at halftime, but it deteriorated after that. But I would argue that the Dragons are probably the most improved team this year. So pretty good performance in saying that they took advantage in that second half and played pretty well too. So you don't want to discredit that, but yeah, certainly Tigers were made to look very average, weren't they? Titans versus Rabbitohs. I think the second game on Friday night, the score was 12-46 to the Rabbitohs, and obviously a pretty one-sided affair here as well. Both teams were coming off the bye, but the Titans' last game was a win against the Broncos in Suncorp Stadium, which was a heck of a good win, don't forget. And then Rabbitohs had that big win against the Eels before Mitchell Moses and Clint Gutherson came back. So Rabbitohs 2 in a row. Both Fermor went to centre. Jaden Campbell came back from injury. Has come back from injury, starting at 5'8". Verrills then moved into Randall moved into hooker and Verrills went to the bench. Rabbitohs were as named 1-17 and finally performed to their potential, really. I mean, we know their squad's been mostly pretty good. They've got a few injuries. Cameron Murray's still out. Latrell coming back has made a difference, and Cody Taylor's finding a bit of form now. But yeah, the Rabbitohs won the first half 4-1. Score was 6-22, and basically the same story in the second half. Finishing 12-46, so the Titans only scoring a try each half. Latrell Mitchell making a good statement in terms of Origin selection, and Jack Whiten in the halves makes a big difference. I think that's been evident now, and I'd like to see that stay. Cody Walker finally getting things right. He's playing a lot better, and so is Damien Cook. So the whole team's sort of stepping up. Titans have had an improved this year. I know they were at the bottom of the table for a fair chunk of it, but they have shown really solid performances. But they still have the odd game where they just absolutely get pumped and let in a lot of points like this one. Titans were at home as well, so Des Hasler wouldn't be happy about that. Rabbitohs were looking better, and of course, and then they should get a little bit better when Cam Murray returns as well. So And then we're into Saturday. We had Cowboys versus Warriors up in North Queensland, home game for the Cowboys. Well, this was a hell of a game, I must admit. Warriors winning this one comfortably, 42-12. I appreciate that the Cowboys had I think they've got the most players of any NRL side, most players in Origin. And they rested a couple of guys, but that was always on the cards. But a few players backed up. Anyway, Cowboys coming off an inspired comeback win against the Roosters in their last game, and they were 3 in a row coming into this game at home. But yeah, 4 guys backing up from Origin. So that's Valentine Holmes, Tom Dearden, Reuben Cotter, and Nene, but with Reece Robson and Murray Taulagi not backing up. So Murray Taulagi's just coming back from injury, and Reece Robson got through a ton of work. Of course, the Blues were a man down for most of that game. So Reece Robson played big minutes, made sense to rest him, but yeah, so it probably made a bit of a difference not having him in the Cowboys. So, yeah, the Warriors were coming off a couple of massive results. Don't forget the win against the Panthers and then the win against the Dolphins. They obviously had the bye, and then they had a few players returning from injury as well. So I've made a few other notes. But look, it was just a really, really solid performance from the Warriors. Look, it wasn't a good start for the Cowboys with off a handling error. I think there was, and it's just worth noting a few errors in the Cowboys game. But that was from an ex-Warrior to kick things off in the area. There was a penalty, a forced dropout, all in the first 10 minutes. And then the Warriors took advantage of that. They scored first through Chance Nickel-Clockstead. Now the Cowboys' handling error led to Adam Fanua-Blake's try. And yeah, Fanua-Blake making up for missing his last game. Clearly making a statement. There'd been a lot of question marks about, I guess, his attitude. But Webster's been pretty clear. Nope, we've handled it. He's put his hand up. He's owned up to it, and he's admitted. You know, he's now made a statement that he's still there. He's still part of this team, and he's there to see the season through. So anyway, another handling error led to Fountain, and the Warriors made them pay, and Barnett scored a try, and yet another handling injury led to a try to Rocco Berry. So that was 4 Cowboys errors, 4 tries, and there was, of course, a couple of a penalty or two in amongst that mix. But the handling errors really gave the Warriors good field position, but they took advantage. I guess the Cowboys, you could argue the defence wasn't great either. The Cowboys finally managed to get some points at the end of the first half. Tom Dearden making a break for Drinkwater to score. Warriors will be gutted to leak points in that way, but hadn't offered the Cowboys much at all, 22-6 at half-time. I think that break by Tom Dearden was well into the Cowboys' own half, and Drinkwater just ran away. So, you know, a little slip up there. But, of course, you've got some class there with Tom Dearden. I mean, you know, players like that are going to... make a break at times, but you got to play all the way through. You got to keep shutting it down. In the second half, Cowboys came out much better, but yeah, they didn't make as many mistakes in the first part of the second half, but the Warriors didn't give much away in defence again. It took 15 minutes before the first points, which came actually after a Cowboys penalty. So a dodgy play the ball, a dodgy pass, a dodgy bounce from a pass, but a fair try to Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. Yeah, look, I guess that try would be debatable. Certainly, if you're a Cowboys fan, you would deny that was a try all day long. It was a 50-50 call, even from my point, or even less than a 50-50. But either way, the Warriors managed to score from that bizarre moment when Chanel Harris-Tavita went to the sin bin. He threw the ball at Chad Townsend, who also went to the bin, but Chad Townsend didn't actually do anything really in that incident, but I think the referee said, no, you're involved with different things, and Chad Townsend had been involved in a kerfuffle in the previous play, but however, still couldn't work out but why both players went to the sin bin for that one. That shouldn't have happened, but yeah, 12 on 12, and the Warriors had a penalty for an unrelated. It wasn't because of that incident, it was because of a tackling without the ball. But anyway, the Warriors got a penalty. They kicked 2 points. It was certainly the Warriors' day. And in the second try to Chance Nickel-Clocks, they'd sort of summed it all up, really. He put a chip through, or a grubber through, Watini Zelezniak followed through all the way, even though it looked like it was going dead for all money, managed to keep his feet in as he dived and flicked the ball back, and it was one of the more impressive sort of flick back tries, because for some reason Nickel-Clockstead had sort of followed up in the play as well, and the ball just went perfectly to him. So it was a hell of a try. Certainly Warriors Day. The Cowboys finally scored their second try with only 7 minutes remaining after Drinkwater kicked the ball out from a restart to give the Cowboys the ball back. So that was a heads-up play. Drinkwater has done that a few times. But it was too late, too little too late. Rocco Berry put the icing on the cake and scored the last try, 42-12. Complete team performance from the Warriors, who still have a few players to return from injury, the likes of Sean Johnson and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. But yeah, look, for me, I think some of the better, standouts, Timoida Martin, one try. I think, it's worth talking about him. He's been one of the best halves in the competition for the last 4 weeks, it would be, including the bye. But he had one try assist when Sean Johnson was playing, and that was in 6 games. One try assist in 6 games. Now he's had 7 try assists in 3 games, and I did note that he didn't get any try assists against the Dolphins, so that means he got 7 and 2 technically. But anyway, seven try assists in 3 games, and one of the best halves lately. This can only be a good thing for when Sean Johnson returns, and Sean Johnson needs to be aware of that. So he does let Martin get a bit of the ball, but certainly the game plan needs to change from the way it was when Sean Johnson was last playing. Sean Johnson took most of the play down that right edge, whereas Martin's been popping up both sides, but Sean Johnson will naturally go to the right edge. And most of the time link with Watini Zelezniak. I think I've got his name wrong, but Watini Zelezniak, and most teams this year have just been shutting that down, and then the Warriors haven't had much after that. So anyway, so that, I think the game plan needs to change, and Martin needs to see more of the ball, and that should help Sean Johnson free him up and take some pressure off too. He wasn't in a good headspace, if you ask me, before he got injured. There was a lot of pressure mounting up. Now he can come in and just take his time. I also think there's an opportunity to change or rethink the lineup for when Roger Tuivasa-Sheck does return. I feel like the centres need to stay. They are pretty key. They were there performing well last year. I feel like Rocco Berry's taken another step forward this year. But Pompey needs to be there for his goal kicking as well. So that's my take. So I just don't have the answer about how to get Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in with Chance Nickel-Clockstead playing the way he is. So I feel like you've got to keep your centres. You have to keep your wingers. Marcelo Montoya has been, in my opinion, one of the better wingers. And when he isn't playing, you just have to look at that first 20 minutes when the Warriors played the Roosters. He wasn't on that edge there, and the Roosters took full advantage. So I don't know. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is underutilised at centre, so they've got to find a way. But Martin, Johnson, centres, I don't know. And I like Chanel Harris-Tavita on the bench. I'm going to park that there, but that's just my take on a few things. Then we had the Broncos versus Sharks. Broncos losing 12-22. Sharks hadn't been playing very well in the last couple of weeks before this game, and the Broncos are at home. But yeah, Broncos are just coming off the bye, but of course, they lost against the Titans the week before that. The Sharks had the massive loss against the Panthers, and then a loss against the Eels. So I think coming off two losses in a row, Broncos obviously without Reece Walsh, that was quite evident. Sharks were always going to rest Nico Hines, but yeah, certainly, and for that, it would mean a big task to win up to try and win up in Brisbane. And also McInnes was backing up from Origin. Broncos dominated the first half. They scored 2-1, leading 12-4 at half time. So Broncos certainly looking good at that point. Patrick Carrigan scoring the first try, and Talakai, who is finding a home in the forward pack, whether he's in the middle or on the edge, but he's getting starting edge spot at the moment through injury and playing on the he played on the edge against the Broncos. He scored the Sharks only try in the first half, but it was all the Sharks in the second half scoring 3 tries, and the defence was at its best to keep the Broncos scoreless for that half. I think that was really worth noting. The Sharks' defence has been the best this year, apart from probably the last two games before this Broncos game. It was on par with the Panthers or the Storm, but in the last couple of weeks it had sort of not been working quite as well as it had been, and Hines doesn't make that difference. So, look, they needed to do that, and they did. But yeah, I think they scored 3 tries. It was noticeable when Haas and Carrigan were off the field. Royce Hunt really had a storming 24 minutes, really. He made quite a difference. Braden Trindle was one of the best also for the Sharks. He caused lots of problems with his high kicks for fill-in fullback Tristan Saylor, and Trindle scored a try himself, playing pretty well since coming back from his off-field challenges. The Sharks really needed this one. I mean, so did the Broncos, because the Broncos have been slipping down the ladder a little bit. But yeah, you know, Sharks lost 2 in a row. They needed to try and find a way to get this one, and they did. But yeah, the Broncos, they don't offer a heck of a lot without Reece Walsh and, of course, Adam Reynolds. Those 2 players are pretty keen. Reece Walsh is back in round 17 and Adam Reynolds is a little bit further away than that. Then we had the Storm versus Knights. The Storm winning this one reasonably comfortably. I say comfortably. The scoreline sort of says that, but it was actually pretty close. For most of the game, the Storm sort of ran away with it in the second half a little bit, and then the Knights managed to come back and actually gave them a chance to level and go to Golden Point. But let's just start at the beginning. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, the Storm were coming off a loss to the Seagulls and then the bye, and the Knights were coming off that thumping against the Bulldogs in Newcastle. Harry Grant and Christian Welch, they dropped back to the bench before the kickoff. Phoenix Crossland, Tyson Frizzell, Fletcher Sharp, they started for Jaden Brayley, Christian Papalangi, and David Armstrong was a late withdrawal through quad injury. So Jaden Brayley just went back to the bench and didn't get as many minutes. The Knights opting to go with Phoenix Crossland, and maybe that helped them on attack, but scoring 28 points against the Knights. I know Brayley was a part of that, of course, too. So anyway, it was a close game to start with. There was no score until the 18th minute, until Nick Meaney went over, and the Knights hit straight back after that. The Storm passed to no one, and the Knights picked up the loose ball, and Dylan Lucas scored to level it up. Harry Grant then came on the field because I think that loose pass was from dummy half. But anyway, Harry Grant was on the bench for 22 minutes. The Knights do well to keep the Storm out after a few repeat sets, then get a penalty to get out of trouble and score from that set through Fletcher Sharp on debut. Quite a pivotal moment there, but yeah, the Storm scored pretty quickly after that again to level. And I thought that would be the half, but there was enough time for a kickoff and a tackle, and the Storm made a play on the last and scored a great try with Nick Meaney finishing it off. Don't you just love it when teams just take a chance there? Could go pear-shaped and set, bounce for the ball, whatever, but come off for the Storm, and the halftime score was 18-12, and the Knights would have felt pretty average, just about that. A little bit of confidence knocked, but anyway, the Knights were looking like they were actually going to lead at halftime. But the Storm scored 2 tries in 90 seconds to take the lead into the half. Incredible stuff. The Knights scored straight after halftime to go within 2 points, and they were really up for this game. But the Storm scored 3 tries in about 12 minutes in the middle of that second half to push the score out to 34-16, and with 20 to go, and you just thought, that's over. It's all over at that point. But the Knights battled back. Dane Gagai leading a bit of a charge there, and he scored a try to spark a comeback, and the Storm at this point looked like they were just winding back a bit and settling on their lead. To be honest, Bellamy just could not watch. He was pacing away from the desk. But yeah, look, it was unfortunate, but it wasn't until the 77th minute before the Knights scored again after that Gagai try. But they were only 6 behind at that point, still within a chance. However, the Storm managed to keep them out and kick a penalty at the end to seal it, hence the different 8-point difference. The Storm halves played really well in this one. Tyrone Wishart doing a great job filling in for Cameron Munster. He scored 2 tries and a try assist, and then I think Tyrone Wishart had a try disallowed, and they were arguing penalty. But anyway, could have very close to 3 tries. And Jerome Hughes is one of the informed halves this year. The Storm did enough, but they won't be happy with the amount of the points that the Knights scored. The Knights played really well and will be proud of their performance. I would agree. I would say that they'd agree with that, but they'd be pretty happy to play the way they did in Melbourne against the top side in the competition. They'll be disappointed with the 3 tries the Storm scored in the second half run, because that was really quite the difference in the end. But they fought back from that still, so never gave up. And I would say a pretty good performance by the Knights. They'll be pretty happy with that. Then we move into the Panthers versus Seagulls. Panthers, they were coming off a loss to the Dragons, and a result that they wouldn't have been happy with. So they tend to bounce back pretty well from losses, as we saw when the Warriors beat the Panthers. Then the Panthers smashed the Sharks. And the Seagulls, they were coming off their good win against the Storm before the bye last week. Liam Martin was out with an injury, so Luke Garner started in his place. Brian To'o, Isaiah Yeo, Jerome Luai all backed up, and Isaiah Yeo isn't playing a full game in Origin. Ola Kawatu, Daly Cherry Evans, Jake Trebojevic, they all backed up for the Sea Eagles, and there was no changes to the team from Tuesday. So the first half was all about wingers Brian To'o and Tommy Talau, who both scored hat-tricks, first half hat-tricks on opposite wings. They weren't up against each other. But yeah, those 6 tries were the only tries in the first half. So the score was 16-12 at half time, and the Seagulls, they were competing really well. They led 12-4 at 30 minutes. I think Talau had scored his 3 tries, so all pretty bang, 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 back to back. But then the Panthers scored twice in the last 10 minutes of the half. So man, when those momentum shifts happen in rugby league, teams can just score. They can score points at the moment. That's why defence, I think, is going to be absolutely key. And there's a lot of teams where their defence just isn't as strong as, say, the Panthers or the Sharks or the Storm, although the Storm's defence wasn't great on the weekend. The Panthers scored twice in the first 20 minutes of the second half, and they stretched the lead out to 28-12. The Seagulls responded after that, after those 2 tries, with Talau scoring his 4th try. Sanuia Turuva, he scored his 2nd try with 10 minutes of the game to go. The score at that point was 32-16, and it was all over. I think that's what the score finished at. Seagulls, they scored I lied. The Seagulls scored again through Saab, but it was looking like all the Seagulls' points were going to be Talau's tries. So it wasn't, because Ruben Garrick had missed all his kicks up until that point. And to be fair, that contributed probably to a bit of scoreboard pressure. There was 8 points lost, and Garrick is a much better kicker than that. I appreciate Talau was scoring towards the corner or towards the sideline, but it probably meant something.
Low battery, please charge.
And sorry about that. And then it took a bit of pressure off. But yeah, sideline conversions. Garrick will be upset with that, with his kicking performance. To be fair, I thought the Seagulls played really well in parts, but the Panthers, they're obviously a better side, and they did very well. Bulldogs versus Eels, last game on Monday night. Bulldogs' last game was a good one against the Knights, which I mentioned just before. This game was Gutherson's 200th game, and the Eels were really good against the Sharks. in their last game with Gutherson and Moses back. Boy, they are the whole team is just different with those two guys back. Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs started at lock, so Kurt Mann dropped back to the bench. Stephen Crichton and Matt Burton were backing up from Origin, although Matt Burton didn't get any game time. Mike Acevo was laid out, so Dejan Arce came in. Big crowd, massive crowd on King's birthday holiday, last game of the round, and possibly the best, I must admit, in a way. If you're an Eels fan, no, but in a way, one of the best games. Eels started this scoring with the try to rookie Blaze Talangi, who's playing centre instead of Bailey Simonson, who's out with a long-term injury. Bulldogs injuries. They had quite a few injuries in the game, or two main ones. Bailey Haywood was injured. Josh Curran was injured early in that first half, and then there was the sin bin to Kurt Mann for a poor tackle, and he spent 10 minutes, and there may be more repercussions on that. But anyway, so Kurt Mann goes to the bin. So look, the Bulldogs were well against it. They were out of the game with 20 minutes to go. But anyway, the halftime score was 10-12 to the Eels. They scored first in the second half. Connor Tracy inspired a bit of a comeback with 2 breaks on that right edge. He has got some wheels. Absolutely gassed the Eels left edge and set up a couple of tries. Stephen Crichton, it was an inspired performance from him, really. He scored 2 tries, and there was 2 tries to Blake Wilson, all on that right edge. So 4 tries, really that right edge doing the job and being the difference. But Connor Tracy at fullback looks pretty good at the moment, so I'm sure we will see more of that. So that rounds out the round 14, NRL round 14. Let's have a quick look at the table as it stands now. Storm, Sharks, Panthers, Dolphins. That's your top 4 at the moment. Storm and Sharks are on even points. The Storm are a game behind, but because they have had the extra bye. Panthers coming third, close behind, and then you've got Dolphins and Raiders, 4th and 5th, both on 18 points. Roosters, Bulldogs, Broncos, Dragons, all on 16 points. That is a pretty fair top 8. I think that the Bulldogs, obviously the new team this year in the top 8. Dolphins are, doing quite well up there in the top 4. Raiders doing pretty well. They're in the mix, considering when Jamal Fogarty got injured, you'd think those 2 young halves would really, not be able to keep the Raiders sort of ticking along as they have. So that's your top 8, though. And then you've got Dragons 9, Warriors 10, Seagulls 11, Cowboys 12, Knights 13, Eels 14, Titans 15, Rabbitohs 16, West Tigers 17. I feel like this top 8 is going to be one of the most contested in history. I don't know, it's just extremely close. When you have the Knights in 13th place on 14 points, and then you have the Dolphins in 4th place on 18 points. So between 4th and 13th, you've got 2 wins difference. You've got Rabbitohs outside of that. You've got the Eels outside of that. And you would argue that those 2 teams could make a bit of a run. They're better than where they are, I think. I think the Warriors and Dragons will be keen to get into that, and the Seagulls, Cowboys. I mean, all of these teams will be potentially top 8 teams. But who do you take out of the top 8 right now for to replace them with? Bulldogs, Raiders, possibly. I mean, I don't know, Dolphins you wouldn't write off, but otherwise I feel like the rest of that top 8's pretty sound. So that's that, and then let's move now on to the round 15 preview. We'll start with the Sharks versus Dolphins. That's on Thursday night. Sharks are ranked 2nd at the moment and the Dolphins 4th, so it's a top 4 clash. Nico Hines is back for the Sharks. That's the biggest talking point. But Daniel Atkinson is the man to drop back to the reserves, which means Trindle's going to keep his spot. So they've cleared out whatever's happening in the background with Trindle, and he's now back. There you go. And then in terms of the Dolphins, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow and Felice Kaufusi, they return from Origin. They obviously were rested. And what else? Yeah, Cody Nikorima's back at 5'8", so Anthony Milford drops back. So, look, I think the Dolphins will be better off because of Nikorima coming back. Look, Sharks are strong favourites, and I would tend to agree. The Sharks will be at home. Of course, they've had a few, troubles over the last few weeks. I think they've lost 3 games all year, and they've lost 2 in a row now. Hines coming back, they are going to be very, very keen on winning this one. So they are favourites. I am leaning towards Sharks. I feel like they will make a statement. I had 13 plus, but to be fair, that margin's pretty tough because Wayne Bennett's side, Dolphins, they're not going to give you a quite a high margin. I couldn't suspect. So anyway, let's move on to the Rabbitohs versus Cowboys first Friday night game. Raiders versus Cowboys. Raiders are 5th, Cowboys are 12th. Raiders at home. You've got Hudson Young returning after being on Origin duty, and that's sort of the only real change in the Raiders. They're getting a bit of consistency with their personnel. Murray Taulagi and Reece Robson are back on deck after missing the last game. After being rested after Origin 1. Prop Jordan McLean, he's back. So that means Griffin Neame moves to the bench. And Jeremiah Nanai, he's going to start where he came off the bench in their last game. So, Fini Fuiaki actually moves back to the interchange. Yeah, okay. So he's had a pretty good run there on the edge. So that's not a heck of a lot of player movements. Raiders are favourites for this one. Cowboys have really been struggling in recent weeks. I am leaning towards the Raiders, but I feel like it'll be a close game. So I've got Raiders 1-12. Rabbitohs versus the Broncos on the second game, later game on Friday night. Rabbitohs, it's in Sydney. Rabbitohs are ranked 16th at the moment. Broncos 8th. Broncos are the favourites. What have we got? Let's just have a quick look at the teams. Tristan Saylor. So Reece Walsh isn't back yet. He won't be back to round 17. Which I think is a massive, massive thing. So let's keep moving. I'm conscious of time. Sorry, everybody. If you are watching, can you please like or let me know you have? Bloody good on you. Rabbitohs, look, Cameron Murray's back. So that's massive for the Bunnies. They're starting to get all their players back. They have had the biggest injury list this year, but I feel like it's between them, the Warriors, and even the Titans have had quite a few injuries. So that's the big player change, and then Xavier Willison comes back onto the bench for the Broncos. I think he had a baby. His partner had a baby on the weekend, so he missed their last game. So not a lot of changes to the teams. Of course, Reece Walsh isn't playing. The odds are suggesting the Broncos, and so is rankings, positions on the table, the like, after what the Rabbitohs have done the last couple of weeks and their personnel coming back. I feel like the Broncos are going to need to make a statement. They've slid down the ladder just a little bit. I feel like I'm leaning the Rabbitohs at the moment, so I'm going Rabbitohs 1-12. And then on Saturday, we've got the Tigers versus the Titans. Bottom of the table sort of clash, this one. Tigers at home, ranked 17th, dead last. Titans ranked 15th. Titans are favourites for this game at about $1.60. Massive boost for the Tigers, actually. Adam Dewey's back, he's listed amongst the reserves, so he's getting closer and closer, and they need him. Aidan Seasons back from a 4-game suspension, so that's great. But Lachlan Galvin and Jaden Sullivan are sidelined because of hand injuries. So what that means, Aidan Seasons back, but Api Coruscant is actually going to number 7. Solomon Alamalo's out, so Charlie Staines moves to the wing and Brent Nader comes into the centres. For the Titans, Phil Sami's back in the centres, so both Fermor can go back to the edge. and that's roughly it. So the Titans have got, let me have a quick look, they have Jaden Campbell starting at 5/8 again, and Kieran Foran, of course, is back at halfback. I like Keanu Kinney at fullback, reasonably happy with that. Look, I think, based on the team's odds, all the rest of it, I am leaning towards Titans. I think they'll be pretty determined to bounce back from their recent performance, although the Tigers will be too. But I just feel like the Titans offer a bit more. But you never know. It's hard one to pick, but I think it'll be close either way. But I am going to lean towards Titans. They've been a stronger team this year. So let's go with that. Then we've got the Warriors versus the Storm. And for me, the game of the round, the Warriors ranked 10th at the moment. The Storm won first. Warriors winning 3 in a row. This is at home game at Mount Smart Stadium. It is a sellout, as most of the games for the Warriors this year. The odds are even, $1.90 each way. And that's not just the odds in New Zealand. That's Sportsbet's offering the same sort of thing. In terms of team, Sean Johnson's back for the first, since round 10. So, look, for me, most of the game is really going to be determined. The result will be based on how that works, those dynamics. The team has been playing exceptionally well without Sean Johnson, so he's got to come in and complement that rather than, distract that. So we've got Timai Martin, his halves partner. I like that. I think that's a must do. Just put Johnson straight back in there. But yeah, look, Chanel Harris-Tavita's been playing exceptionally well as well, so he's on the bench. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's sort of in the mix, but I don't think he'll be playing. And then for the Storm, Remy Smith hasn't been named. He had an HIA in his last game. Dean Idemia might play his first game of the year in the centres, and that's about it. And it looks like Elisa Katoa is free to play. He had a dangerous contact charge. He's just been fined. He's going to be able to play against his old club, so he'll be looking forward to that and coming home in that sense. I think I'm going to go with the Warriors 1-12. I think it'll be a close game. The Warriors just about beat the Storm the last time they played. The Storm scored 2 or 3 tries in the last handful of minutes to win at home, and that sort of curtailed the Warriors' season just a little bit. I think that probably started the poor run that the Warriors had before they've been able to turn around over the last month. So the Warriors will be up for it. The Storm have definitely had the better over the Warriors in the last quite a few games, but the Warriors will be determined to sort of right that this week or try and counter that. But having a full crowd at home behind them, I feel like the Warriors could get the job done. So it's going to be one of the best games of the round. It's certainly tipped to be the most even and close game. So then we've got the Eels versus Roosters on Sunday. Eels ranked 14th as we know. Roosters ranked 6th. Odds are suggesting the Roosters are reasonably strong favourites, and that I would agree with, although the Eels are starting to look pretty good. And the Eels will be so fired up about after their last performance. To lose the way they did, they should have won that game. But anyway, so the Eels are at home. They are always hard to beat at home. Mike Acevo's back on the wing. He missed last week. And then Jermaine Hopgood, he's going to be starting. But yeah, it sounds like there's a little bit going on there because Jermaine Hopgood probably shouldn't have played last week. But anyway, let's see. Whatever. And then Ryan Madison, interesting. He has been named in the reserves. There's been talk he might not play again this year, but anyway, he's still in the mix, which doesn't work well for my fantasy team. But look, if you want me to talk about fantasy a little bit more, I do play that. I do follow it very closely. I'm happy to just put in fantasy. I hadn't got that far. It's a lot of work putting this stuff together. However, so in terms of fantasy, I just bought Kauma Tuolangi in last week, so I do not want Madison to come back. I'm in no hurry for that whatsoever. Then for the Roosters, all of their Origin players are back. They just came off the bye, so they'll be reasonably refreshed and ready to go. There was obviously a lot of talk about old mate bloody waiting for a friend, Brendan Hands. So, but listening to I can't remember what the podcast is called, James Graham's podcast with Brendan Smith last night. It sounds like it's all cleared up. Nothing's too serious. Of course, Brendan Hands was missed a meeting, so he got in trouble for that. But yeah, everything seems to be okay. That's what he said. He's ready to move on and play. There's nothing more than that. So that's looking pretty good. I don't think there's too much to talk about. Although Connor Watson's returning from injury, from a throat injury, so we'll have to wait and see. What am I talking about? I don't know. I'm losing my mind. But Brandon Smith, what was I saying? Brandon Smith. So it's been a long day. It has actually been a horrifically long day. So anyway, look, Connor Watson's actually starting at hooker for the Roosters. I don't know where Brandon Smith is at the moment, but looks like he is out. So maybe there is a little bit more to it. But anyway, so Brandon Smith's out, Connor Watson's back. Look, I'm going to lean towards the Roosters for this one. Oh, man, I like Connor Watson. He sort of has revived part of the Roosters season this year. I know the Eels are going to be strong. They're going to try and bounce back, but I've got to lean Roosters. I think it'll be close, 1-12. And then we have the Seagulls versus the Dragons. I like this matchup, actually. Seagulls 11th, Dragons 9th. Dragons being one of certainly the biggest improvers this year. Olakoatu has actually been named to start. He had a calf injury and didn't play many minutes in their last game, or 24 minutes, there you go. Nathan Brown starts he played pretty decent minutes and seems to be a link or a bit of a ball player, middle forward there. Josh Aloe is suspended 3 goes, and I still got it wrong. And then Ethan Bullimore is the new face on the bench. No changes to the 17 for the Dragons. But they might do a late game day shift. So Seagulls versus Dragons. Seagulls at home. Seagulls reasonably strong favourites at $1.50. I would tend to lean that way. The Seagulls played pretty well against in their last game. I can't even remember who that was, but they Panthers. Yeah, apart from goal kicking. Look, I think the Seagulls want to bounce back. They've got class all over the place. But they've got a young fullback. They've got a couple of players a couple of injuries that just enough to be niggly. Whereas the Dragons are just playing hot at the moment. And then the last game of the round, we've got Knights versus Panthers. Knights, I'll go Seagulls 1-12. Knights ranked 13th, Panthers 3rd at the moment. Panthers are strong favourites for this one. It's in Newcastle. In terms of changes, Bradman Best, he's back. So, we talked about State of Origin earlier and Latrell Mitchell. Well, of course, Bradman Best is an option, a possibility to come back to State of Origin. Fletcher Sharp, he's starting fullback, and it looks like he might be the pick there with David Armstrong. It looks like David Armstrong would be ready to play. His injury seems to be okay, I think. But what I'm hearing is that Fletcher Sharp would have been actually the first pick or runner-up to Kalen Ponga. However, he was injured at the time, so Fletcher Sharp had to go. I mean, they're just spoiled. Fletcher Sharp is 20. So anyway, so that's a bit of a talking point there. And then, Daniel Saifiti, he's trying to be declared fit. So we'll wait and see. And that for him. Star fullback Dylan Edwards is back. So that's massive. Goal kicking as well. And then Jack Cole, he's the preferred partner to Jerome Luai, which I don't mind either way. I felt that Brad Schneider played really, really well when he had his chance. But Jack Cole, I don't know, whatever, he's been playing pretty well too. I think Jack Cole had a pretty average game when one of Panthers' games. I can't remember which one, but he seems to be better than that. And then Liam Martin, we'll just wait and see. So that's that. Those are the teams. Panthers are strong favourites. I'm going Panthers 13 plus. I don't know. I need to see more from the Knights at the moment. Although that the Knights, they did a reasonably good performance. I just feel like the Panthers, they need to make a bit of a statement at the moment, and they've got reasonably full squad. The Knights did really well against the Storm, so it is maybe it'll be a bit closer, but I don't know. I feel like with Dylan Edwards back, the Panthers need to show some of their attacking ability, and they might target this game. Of course, the Knights bounced back last week reasonably well against, but after their big loss to the Bulldogs at home. So I don't know. It's a tough one to call, that one. Look, that's enough from me. If you have been watching, thank you so much. And yeah, please enjoy the round this weekend. I'm looking forward to it as well. Cheers.